when you're in business, it can't only be about making money. You're gonna burn out sooner or later, and that's what I did with the restaurant. At a certain point, you're making money, you're not enjoying it. It's soul sucking. It just sucked after a while. And that's why when you look into the creative artist, maybe you continue, but maybe you take dancing lessons or you take singing lessons. You do something that's really fun. And then all of a sudden you start looking at business in a different light. And that's what happened with Jake and Gino. I didn't start out the education company by monetizing it. I started it out because I like to do podcasts. Yeah. I like to write books. I like to teach people and I like to coach. That's how that spawned from that. Not knowing I was tapping into my creative artist. And when people say they're in the flow or they're really energized, it's really the magician and the creative artist that they're tapping into without even knowing it. Then they got the warrior driving the car. He or she's the one plowing through, but he needs those other two archetypes to help along.
Hey, it's David Richter here. The Profit First REI podcast have Gino Barbaro on today, which I'm super excited because he's interviewed me on his podcast. So you need to go over and check the Jake and Gino podcast. But then as well, too, he is a wealth of information. He is also very experienced in the real estate world. Honestly, I feel like if you're in real estate, you might have heard of Jake and Gino because I have heard of them throughout the years and just how they've grown and how they've scaled. So, Gino, thanks for being on the show today.
David, thank you. And I like to start off by using this quote. And the reason why, when I picked up Mike Michalowicz's book years ago, and then I picked up your book a few years ago, and then I interviewed you on our podcast, it's revenue's vanity, profit margin is sanity, and cash is king. And that's what Profit First is all about. It's not what you make, it's like what you keep. That's the important component to this whole business of real estate.
Yeah, it is. And where did you first learn that? Like, did you have to go through the fire and then come out the other side? Or like, were you born with that? Or like, what? I want to know, like, when did that become a reality for you and not just a quote?
That's a great question. I think unconsciously, my father was an Italian immigrant, and he always drilled it into my head. It's not what you make, it's what you keep.
Awesome.
And I had been hearing that forever. Then I was in the restaurant business for years, and it's a tough business. Margins of 3, 4, 5. We did well because we were mom and pop, but we couldn't scale. We had one shop. It was 10%. Then I got into real estate, David, for guess what? I got into real estate for cash flow. I didn't get into real estate to fix and flip so our metric was PPU, profit per unit. And over the years, Jake and I continued to focus on that. And syndications are great. They're a great tool. There's less profitability. It's a different strategy. It's a different model. Just understanding the model that you're going into is important when you're getting into business. So for me, early on, I was conditioned on that. Hey, listen, it's great to make $1 million, but if you only keep 1,000 of it, did you really make $1 million? You have to understand the difference between gross and net. And I learned that early on because when you are in a business and you have a small business, unfortunately, you're the last person to get paid. Whatever's left over is yours. So you have to come to that realization that hopefully you make enough to pay yourself.
Yeah. So then when did it become reality between gross and net, but then also cash and the difference there and like actually being able to put it in your pocket? Because a lot of people go into real estate thinking Robert Kiyosaki's game, right? I just get enough rentals and passive income. I get to the financial free, that fun track on his game. So like, Did you have to build that throughout, or like did you have to have a certain number of units, or like when did the cash cycle as well too become a reality?
That's another great question. I was always trained, especially with the restaurant, I got really good at budgeting. So I would know my weekly expenses. I would know that at the end of the week, I would try to estimate what my quarterly sales tax was. So if my quarterly sales tax was 20 grand, extrapolate that 13 weeks, I need to put away on average $1,500 a week for sales tax, rent, insurance, all that stuff. So I would know my weekly number that I needed to make. Anything above that, plus all my other OpEx, anything above that I would keep. So I understood that from a basic level. And we have 6 kids. My 3 oldest kids, they're out of college. I've got kids I'm still homeschooling right now. I'm actually going to teach them a lesson tomorrow on what a T12 is, what a profit loss statement is, what a balance sheet, and what an income statement is. I'm going to teach them more in one lesson than what most high schoolers have in their entire high school education, and then probably college if you're not in a business.
Say college, exactly. Like,
yes,
especially if you're not learning that there.
But you had a great question. When did it come for a reality to me?
Yeah.
And I'm here to say something controversial about getting into real estate.
Yeah.
I'm not going to knock your socks off, but most people would disagree with what I have to say. When you're getting into it, don't quit your job day one.
Okay.
Test the waters.
Yeah.
I got into business in 2011 with Jake Gino. We were looking for deals. It took us 18 painful, long, agonizing months to find our first deal. We hit it. We got it after 18 months. I'm still working at the restaurant. I don't have to survive and try to force a deal and get the itis. I'm still making money at the restaurant because I've got 4 kids at the time. And then after the second deal, 3 months later, I'm still working at the restaurant. And then after the third deal, 6 months after that, I'm still working at the restaurant. So from 2011 to 2016, I have 2 jobs, basically. I have the real estate gig and the restaurant. And then 2016, I started earning a significant amount of money. I could leave the restaurant. But more importantly, what that allowed me to do was it allowed me to, whatever money I made in my real estate business, I put it back into the real estate business because we refied out millions of dollars within those 5 years. But I didn't live on that money. I put that money back into the real estate and I bought deals. Now, I could have gone out, raised capital, syndicated. I would have less equity, less profit per unit, but I knew what my goal was. I didn't want to replace one job of restaurant with another job of having thousands of investors. That was my goal. That was my clarity. So I stuck out a couple more years. I could have left sooner, but there would have been less uncertainty and I would have had a lot less doors under management because I would have needed that money to live. So I got really clear on that. And listen, 4 years, 5 years, 3 years, if I was anyone on this call listening and I said to them, if you work hard for the next 5 years, you can almost guarantee yourself of being able to leave your job and go into whatever you want to do full time. I bet you 95% of the people on this call listening would say like, yes. But when you put into action, 5 years sounds so long. But COVID happened 5 years ago.
Right.
I mean, think about how quick time flies. You just need to get really, I guess, focused on what that burn number is, what you need to make. And then when you're pretty close to it, for me, and the magic number that I hear everyone say is 10,000 a month. Yeah. I'm up in New York. I needed more than that. I had 5 kids at the time when I was about to leave. I had 5 kids, had a nice house, property taxes, had some stuff. And I also didn't want to deprive myself of certain things, right? I did want to go on a vacation every now and again. Yeah. I didn't want to worry about paying for some braces. So I wanted to have enough cushion. So if you think you need $8,000 a month, just make it $10,000 a month. And when you're close to that $10,000 a month number, you can say to yourself, okay, I'll slow down here. Because this is the other thing I did. At the time, I said to my brother, who was my partner, I didn't want to leave him in the wind. I said, Mark, I'm going to be doing real estate full-time Monday through Friday, but I'll come in Friday, Saturday, and Sunday and give you a hand at the restaurant. So I didn't pull the cord. So if you have a job, maybe you go part-time, maybe you consult and see how it works out. Give yourself the leeway, build yourself that foundation of having enough money and not pressuring yourself, because the worst thing you could possibly do is leave your job, be stuck in the wind for 18 months, not find a deal, what we call pencil whip a deal, make a deal look good on paper, when in reality it doesn't. You buy the wrong deal and then you blow that deal up. I've seen that done so many times, David.
Yeah. Well, man, where have you been my whole life? This is where I love this line of thinking, because it's not the conventional of what you hear out there of oh, you just need to, start it, go into it full time and just burn all the ships. And it's hold on, wait a second. We need to really build a business and not just the fly by. I love what you said, get their itis, we have to just do the deals in order to get something in the door, because I can't have nothing. And honestly, the honesty you had there of it took you 18 months, to get that first deal. So it's oh, I'm sure there were times, do I keep going? Do I want to do this? Are we going to get that deal? And then of course, 5 years later, you look back and you say, yeah, that was amazing. When you're looking at it at 2016, I also want to ask too, now, money for a lot of us is very personal for everyone. It's personal. So during that time, that 5 years from 2011 to 2016, were you burning the candle at both ends and just working around the clock because you knew hey, as long as I get this out of the way, we can do this? Or were you still able to, I don't know, you had small kids at the time, I'm sure, or kids. So it's how was that process? Do people expect to, during those 5 years, to completely give up everything in their life except for, putting the money out there?
That's a great question, and it's a personal question to everybody. All I can do is rewind a couple of years. In
Yeah.
2007, I lost my dad. He had been my
Uh,
business partner, my mentor in the restaurant business for years. And I asked myself the question, am I living his life and his dream, or am I living my dream?
oh,
When 2008 hit, the restaurant business completely slowed down. I actually got his car as a hand me down. I've never had a car payment in my entire life. So in '08, I got his car, didn't pay for a car for 3 years. 2011 comes along. My mom hands me the keys to her gold Lexus that had 199,000 miles on it. So I was like, dude, I was as cheap as you could get because I was trying to rip it down,
yeah.
bare level, bones level. I wanted to feel the pain because I felt as if I was letting my family down. I'm like, I am not a dumb guy. I had such a great start, such a great foundation for my family, and it feels like I'm failing. What can I do? I decided back then in 2011, whatever I could possibly do, all I wanted really was to get a couple of units, make a couple grand in cash flow every
Yeah.
month. That was the goal initially. Jake, let's
Nice.
buy a couple of deals. That's all I really wanted to see if I could do it. And I was burning the candle at both ends. When you hear people say, like my mother, say to me, you're working too hard. I
Mm,
mean, the real estate was not work to me. I really liked the real
loved it.
estate. I
Yeah.
love the deals. I love the underwriting. I love the idea that it was a business that I could buy and I can scale. Whereas the restaurant, I felt trapped. So for the first 12, 18, 24 months in any business, whether you're starting up your own small business, whether you're starting and you're writing a book and you have your CFO business, you're really burning the candle at both ends because you're trying to figure it out. You're trying to save and to bootstrap. And for me, I actually enjoyed it. And my family understood that I needed to do it. My wife, I remember saying to me, she said to me, whatever you need. I said, Jewel, I said, I don't want to be at this restaurant for the rest of my life. I see the warning signs. I see the mom and pops are going out. I see the profit margins. There's really no hope for us. With having 6 kids, I won't be able to afford it. And she says, you do whatever you need to do. I
Mm,
trust you. When your partner and your
that's big.
spouse says that to you, you can't let them down. I mean,
Yeah.
I literally went balls to the walls, as they say. I got
Yeah.
mentors. I joined groups. I worked really hard. I found the business partner in Jake. So I had to give it my all because she gave me the permission. I couldn't let her down. And sometimes you need that. Sometimes you need to shout it from the rooftops and say, I'm doing this. Hold me accountable. And unconsciously, I think she was the one who held me accountable. So working hard, I mean, I loved it. I love the business. So for me, if you're going to get into real estate and you hate it, don't do it. That's just my advice. Don't listen to somebody saying it's passive income and it's great. It can be, and it can be. But if you don't like business and you don't like dealing with real estate, I would say take a hard pass. Go find
Yeah.
something else.
No, this is such good advice, and I love what you said about your spouse as well too. It's like getting their buy-in of like, okay, as long as they're bought in as well too, then you can go hard, you can do that. And I think what you had mentioned, like even the controversial advice of going out there and still having your job, but then going into real estate, it's going out there and making sure it fits your life and making
Yeah.
that's what I'm hearing. Like of you
Yes.
at your stage of life and with the spouse and the life partner you chose, like this is what your options that you had to be able to go and do. And that's where it's like you took full advantage of that, of like, I'm gonna go out
Mhm.
there, it's not gonna be because Gino didn't do the thing, like he didn't find the person or didn't find the deal or didn't go out there. So I want to ask you, because I've been perusing your money coaching and all that, and like what you've got. Seems like a lot of people have a lack of vision of what they really want out of what themselves, their life, the business. Do you see that like when you start working with people in the money coaching that you do with people, like that's one of the big hangups, or like what are the biggest hangups you see when people start to come to you?
That's another fantastic question. And the reason why I want to call myself an expert on this topic, it's because I had the Jake and Gino platform for 10 years.
Yeah.
The students closed over 100,000 units. They raised over $800 million. That wasn't the whole community. That was only a small subset. So I always said to myself, why is, for instance, David, who's 31 years old, who has no balance sheet, he's closing deals. He's doing seller financing. He's building a portfolio. And then I have Mary here, who's 46 years old. She's got 7 figures in the bank and she can't close a deal. I'm like, what's the difference between these two? And it was very similar with me.
Yeah.
And when I stumbled upon money coaching, I was a life coach before. So life coaches,
Okay.
we're always looked to face the future. Like, what are your goals? What are you trying to accomplish? Unfortunately, we don't really tend to look back as much as we should. Now, conversely, therapists, which I think there are a lot of great ones out there, but like in any other venture, there aren't. They
Mm,
will work in the past, and sometimes they're stuck in the past. And you, as the client, are continually replaying that situation. When I found money coaching about 6 months ago with a lady named Deborah Price, she started the Money Coaching Institute. She blended those modalities so beautifully. I see people going into the past. Look at your money bio, create a bio, start thinking about all of those memories you have as a child. We all have money traumas. I don't care what anybody says. We've heard things, we've not heard things, we've seen things. All of a
yeah.
sudden, those patterns, those behaviors become unconscious. We bring them into our adulthood. And then all of a sudden, you hear people saying, well, I can't pull the trigger. Well, I can't afford that. Or I can't buy apartments, or rich
Right.
people are evil, or they're just those are all patterns and things that we've heard. And if you have those kinds of beliefs and you're saying to yourself, and I was a victim of this, Gino, you need to stay small. You can't play it. You got to play it safe. You can't grow. Don't take any risks. Is that former Gino going to go out and look at a 35-unit apartment complex, even though he's training to do it? Probably not.
Right.
And when you become aware and conscious of those patterns and those behaviors of childhood, you say to yourself, okay, do I want to do that? And more importantly, most of those behaviors are from our family. And the ones I think are even more destructive are the ones like, well, my dad was a gambler. My dad never loved to save. He never loved to do business. All of a sudden, you become an adult and you want to do the opposite of what you were taught. I think that's worse because you're building this empire, this portfolio, and then you're like, I'm not happy. Why am I not happy? I'm going to keep buying. The more money I make, I think I'm going to get happier. And that's not it. Going back into, why you're doing something and what the real reason why you're doing it. I think that's part of what money coaching is, really tapping into what we call the magician, that archetype that transforms reality, that figures out what you're here to accomplish. And I lost that for a lot of years. I thought making more money was going to solve my problems. I'm here to tell you, the more money you make, you just have different problems.
Yeah.
And there's some pretty incredible problems. I've got money now. I've got 6 kids. How do I give those 6 kids the money? How do I transfer over as being a financial steward to them? How do I teach them that? That's a real problem. I don't want to have spoiled, entitled kids. I want to be able to pass it over with having as few estate taxes as possible. It's been 18 months of agonizing pain for me trying to create an irrevocable trust, trying to create ILETs. It's just so we can sit here and squabble about problems. But for me, going back into the past, figuring out what your money bio is and what issues you had, bring them to the present and see where they're showing up in your life. When you have a problem, you go right away, run around, grab your credit card and spend money on the credit card. You get that great dopamine hit. Then a week later, you're like, wore off. I've got to buy something else. See what's going on in your life. Really sit down and become conscious, because then once you're conscious, then you can make the decision consciously. Do I want to buy this? Do I really want to invest in this? Get the clarity, get all of the fogginess out of the way and start making decisions based on your conscious reality and based on something that, for me, when I'm confused or I have fear, I tend to make the wrong decision.
Right.
And I think that's what coaching does. Money coaching, life coaching, therapy. We're trying to at least shine the light on the fear and see where that fear is coming from and see if that fear is rational or not.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense. So then for you personally, the people that come to you for money coaching, do you see it more in the business space that people are coming to you, or is it like all walks of life, or is it, where is it that people want to change and grow? And is it because they're having business issues, or it's like personal finance issues? Like, I'm just trying to see who is the person that comes to you and says, I need this.
Well, people that come to me are basically my avatar, people who gravitate to my message.
Okay.
But if you're out there and you're a woman and you don't like Gino, and you don't like the message, and I may be coming off as like, that's fine. But I think every single person listening to this, whether you have $17 billion or you have $17, it's not the money. Money is the symptom. What we're trying to understand is the root causes of what creates the money problems. Because and this is something for a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
It never is about the money. This guy is making millions of dollars a year, and he's worrying about a $7 ring charge on his Amex, right? He's worrying about all these little recurring charges, and it's bothering him. And I'm like, bro, you make $4 million a year. It's not the money. It's just that he was trained and conditioned as a young person not to waste money. And it was sort of the same way with me. When I was growing up, my mom would buy me nice tennis rackets, nice sneakers. She'd spend money on these items, and we didn't have a ton of money. So I saw that as a sign of respect. I had to take care of my stuff. Now, unconsciously, when I was giving gifts to my kids, sort of the same thing. I'm spending money on you, whether I have it or I don't. Please respect it. And I would go nuts when they didn't take care of something, and I'm like, hold on a second. Why am I behaving that way? It's not about the money. It's what is attached to the money. And once you start realizing it, you can have a deeper conversation with them and say, hey, listen, when I grew up, Mom bought me these tennis rackets. I couldn't afford it. Listen, I'm buying you these pairs of sneakers for $150. I'd really appreciate it if you could really respect them and take care of them. And then when they're gone, we'll buy you another one. That's a better conversation than saying, hey, David, I bought you the damn sneakers. Take care of the sneakers or you're not getting another pair. You know that's how most conversations go,
Right.
but you don't know why you're acting that way because we were never taught how to act that way. Remember, it's not about the $150 or the money. It's about the respect that my mom gave me and the scarcity that we had. And that's how it translates into everyday conversations that we
Yeah.
have.
Yeah, exactly. See that a lot of the business side with when our CFO team is working with clients and it's like, okay, the money is not the issue here. Like it's the thought process behind it and like why do we keep doing the same thing? And it is that level of accountability and I love how you really dig in to find that root problem because then if you just take care of the symptom, they'll just keep coming back. It's whack-a-mole.
David, I have not a solution for you, but I think for you, if you check the Money Coaching Institute out, not getting paid, I think anybody listening to this should go to the Money Coaching Institute. Deborah Price, she's been doing this over 20 years. I think she's a pioneer in what she does. She used to be a financial planner, and she saw that financial planning is basic math. Now, if David Richter, the CFO here, teams up with David Richter, the money coach here, you put both of those together and you do a strategy session or a couple, it's a 4-court process. If you learn that process and you take a business through that process where their money bios, you map out their patterns, you go through their life inventory, you go through their genius, what they're really good at, you package that together, they'll be able to understand, like you said, why do I keep making these decisions and these mistakes? I mean, you put both of those together, to me, it's like putting gas in a fire.
Yeah, exactly. That's why a lot of our CFOs have to be a coach, mentor, and not just like years and numbers. It's more of like, and sometimes it's therapy sessions. It feels like on those calls. So yeah, no, I wrote that down because I definitely want to look up the Money Coaching Institute myself because I know you swear by it and you're out there teaching and you're helping a ton of people, with this and their money mindsets. What are some of the most common money mindsets that people fall into that might be trapping them right now? If you have, I don't know, do you have some of those off the top of your head?
It's incredible. Patterns, there aren't that many patterns in human, it's fear. It's anxiety.
Fear, anxiety.
That's what people have in their underlying issues. Now, she has something called archetypes, which is a phenomenal way. Archetypes are basically ways to describe personalities. They're basically characters within us. I'll mention all 8, and then I'll go through 1 or 2, and I'll show you how these patterns manifest through these archetypes. You have an innocent, you have a fool, you have a martyr, you have a creative artist, you have a tyrant, you have a magician, you have a warrior, right? That's 7. Who else? I'm missing one person. But let's go with those 7.
Yeah.
So if you're an innocent, your archetype is more of an innocent archetype. Oh, I'm sorry, the magician was number 8. If you're more of an innocent archetype, you're the type of person who was raised possibly in a household that never talked about money. You wielded all the decisions. You have your head in the sand. And you're like, okay, my wife was the innocent archetype. She just didn't grow up with money. And every decision that we made in the household early on, I was more of the dominant person. I was what you would say my archetype was more of the tyrant archetype. And the tyrant has fear and has control. And it's not like I would want to be a tyrant because I wanted to be an asshole. It's just because that's the way I was raised. I was afraid of money. I grew up in the scarcity mindset. You save for a rainy day. Don't take risks. Make sure you have enough money left over. You can't run out of money. And I was more of the controlling type. So my wife, the innocent, I'm the tyrant. Guess what? We're gonna have arguments. We're gonna have discussions. She's gonna say, well, why can't we afford it? And I'm gonna say, well, we don't have no. But she's like, there's money in the checking account. Even I'm like, I need that money to be saved. So you can see what happens.
Yeah.
And once I started understanding, wow, these archetypes rule our lives. And once you can start unpacking that and seeing how they are. Now, being an innocent is not good or bad in and of itself. When it relates to making decisions about money, it's not a great archetype to have, right? The same thing with the tyrant. The tyrant is like more fear, dominating, control.
Mm-hmm.
The archetype that I think is probably the most optimal in business would be the warrior, coupled with the magician. The warrior is the one that's out there that's going to make it happen. He's going to do the spreadsheets. He or she's going to do the work. They're focused. They're disciplined. They're courageous. The magician right next to him is the person that's inside of you that really wants to transform reality. They know your why. They know the mission that you're on. Gino, you're not meant to be at the restaurant. You really need to be in coaching. You really need to be in real estate. That's my magician. Now, if the warrior is not doing the work, then it's bad. But you couple the warrior doing all that work, burning both ends of the candle, like you said, but doing it through the magician. I mean, it's such a powerful way. And once you start seeing money and decisions through the lens of the archetypes, it's a pretty cool way to see yourself. Fools, for instance, the fool archetype. I love that archetype because it's both positive and it can be negative. The fool is the one who's optimistic. You need optimism. You can't be the guy or the woman out there saying no deal's good. I don't see any opportunities. The problem with the fool is if the fool's driving the car all the time, the fool sees everything as an opportunity. He's going to the single family, then multifamily, then crypto, then self-storage. You don't really want the fool making all of your money decisions. So you have to really check yourself and say, right now, who's making the decisions right now? Hopefully, the warrior is making those decisions and the magician is right next to you. But most instances, you see what's happening in reality. You have tyrants making decisions. You have innocents making decisions. You have fools making decisions. And right then and there, you see what happens. There's a lot of bad decisions that people are making with their money.
That's so true. What about applied to business? Like you have a business partner. Do some of you, it's like magician and warrior. Sometimes is it that dynamic, kind of like visionary integrator or CEA, COO? It's like one of them's the action taker and then the other one's, creating the ideas.
Yeah.
So it's like, did you see that in your business? Because like you and Gina, you and Jake have exploded and have, you've built an empire and then you're trained and now taught a ton of people. And now you're teaching them the money archetypes and going out there and helping them. So have you seen that in the business relationships, either for you or the people you've worked with, where they've got those different archetypes as part of their makeup?
Yeah. And the other archetype that's important is the creator artist one.
Okay.
That's the one that you're talking about. We all need a little bit of creator artist. And sometimes we're so focused on business, money. I sing opera as a fun pastime.
That's awesome.
I'm not great at it, but it's something where my money coach said, that's something wonderful you're doing. You're tapping into the creative spirit of life, right? Some of you may want to go out. I garden also. I have a little farm. That's my creative aspect. I love growing vegetables. I love having animals. Does it make me money? No, but that's okay. It enlivens me. It gives me some kind of purpose, some kind of enjoyment. Ironically enough, the creator artist does not live in the materialistic world. They have a duality with money. They know they need it, but they hate it, right? So if the creative artist is making money decisions, they're probably not going to be good at making decisions on money. You want them making the decisions of, okay, in Jake and Gino, how are we going to grow this? We need to be more creative. We need to write books. We need to do podcasts. We need to spend money on marketing to grow the message. Well, that's creator artist tapping into that side. But the warrior is the one that's going to do the work. The warrior is the one that's going to show up at a podcast at 12:30. The warrior is the one that's going to go out and network, right? So if you can blend all three of those, and once you start looking at it from that lens, you're like, wow, I've got a team inside of me. I just need to know who to tap and when to tap and why I should be tapping them. But it's a great question because when you're in business, it can't only be about making money. You're going to burn out sooner or later. And that's what I did with the restaurant. At a certain point, you're making money. You're not enjoying it. It's soul sucking. It just sucks after a while. And that's why when you look into the creative artist, maybe you continue, but maybe you take dancing lessons or you take singing lessons. You do something that's really fun. And then all of a sudden you start you start looking at business in a different light. And that's what happened with Jake and Gino. I didn't start out the education company by monetizing it. I started it out because I like to do podcasts.
Yeah.
I like to write books. I like to teach people and I like to coach. That's how that spawned from that. Not knowing I was tapping into my creative artist. And when people say they're in the flow or they're really energized, it's really the magician and the creative artist that they're tapping into without even knowing it. Then they got the warrior driving the car. He or she's the one plowing through, but he needs those other two archetypes to help him along.
Oh, that's awesome. No, this has been incredible. You've provided a ton of value here. Just to recap a little bit, I love what you said at the beginning. Like, you don't have to quit your job to go full time into real estate. I think that was so key, and that message isn't out there enough. Of like, you can take care of yourself, you can take care of your family. You don't have to go in full time, but you can start to build that empire right now. But then not put the pressure on yourself to get there itis. Of like, I got to get there, I got to do the deal. That was so key. And then knowing your burn number, knowing what you need, knowing what the business needs, being very clear on what's coming in and out. And then money is the symptom. I think that was so key as well, too. It's not usually the root problem, or I don't know if it's ever really the root problem, because it's just going to manifest what is those decisions you're making. Why are you making them? Where's that coming from? I love what you said as well, where the fear and anxiety is really the root of what we have to get to, and where did that come from, and how can we, put it to better use or to get it out of there. And then money coaching. So this has been awesome. Do you have any parting advice that you love to give or that you would like to have out there before we wind down here?
One quote, I would say, money does not corrupt, it reveals. That's really important for anybody who's struggling out there. And I would say also, David, and I'm going to promote your stuff first. I mean, if you really want to get into business, Rich Dad, Poor Dad's great. Why you want to get into it. If you need a how-to book and getting into real estate, how to run a business, go check out all the Profit First. You can go check out Mike Michalowicz. I read your book in preparation for our podcast. Pretty simple. It's not revolutionary. It's not rocket science, but it is foundational. And it's great. If you're either starting a business, you're starting out buying a portfolio, or if you've got 100 units or more, and you're saying to yourself, I don't know how much money I'm making, that's when you need to stop buying. You need to sit down and you need to pick up David's book and start reading what the hell am I doing wrong, because you should be getting paid. You're not buying deals just to buy deals and to acquire assets under management. You want to acquire assets under management that create a profit per unit. That's the idea of real estate, getting paid on the front end and getting paid on the back end also. Most people focus on the back end. Let's focus a little bit on the front end as well.
Yeah, no, I love that. Thank you. I appreciate that. How do people get a hold of you? Like, what are you pointing people to right now? Like, I don't know, is it the money coaching, or is it, Jake or Gino? I just want to make sure.
I would go to jakeandgino.com, and also our family website, Barbaro360, BARBARO360.com. It's a family website. I mean, I started this business, and the mission for us, and you need to be clear in your mission. I want to change the world one family at a time. And if I can do that through helping people create a better relationship with money, then I'm doing the job.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So Barbaro360.com or Jake and Gino, is that the jakeandgino.com? Is that the awesome? There you go. So that's where you can find Gino. This has been incredible. Obviously, Gino is very passionate and then also very much aligns with the Profit First message and getting out there and making sure that you're running a real business with real numbers. If you need that help, you could go to simplecfo.com. That's where we are with our team here, making sure that you know where those dollars are going. Just the burn number, like we were talking about, one of the most important numbers to know where you are and where you stand as a business. So if you need that, that's simplecfo.com. Gino, thank you again for coming on and sharing your wisdom today.
This episode of the Profit First for REI podcast is over, but there are plenty more where that came from. Are you ready to learn how David and his team can help implement the Profit First system in your business? Schedule a discovery call at simplecfo.com right now. We'll see you next time on the Profit First for REI podcast with David Richter.